Good morning, everybody. Hello. This is Egbembiwan Monjimbo, and it's not a Vosa World Radio thing I'm doing today. It's just a recording I'm doing because it is Christmas Day. It's December 25th, 2023. It's Christmas Day. It's Christmas morning. And I hadn't planned on doing this. I did something for Thanksgiving, and I was planning to do the next thing on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve or the day after New Year's, January 2nd. This Christmas one wasn't planned at all, but I'm here for a reason because here's the reason I'm here, right here. This lady right here is the reason I'm doing this. She was born on Christmas Day back in 1966. And this is the first Christmas Day in like 30 years where I don't get to give her a call to wish her a happy birthday. Today would have been her 57th birthday, I believe. But this is the first time I can't call her because she left us on November 17th, 3:10 a.m. in the morning of November 17th, 2 days after my birthday. Incidentally, she was gone from us. And so I am just doing this more for myself than for anyone else. To tell you the honest truth, I don't even quite know exactly where I'll be going with it, but I'm just going to go ahead and ramble on. There she is. And of course, I'm wearing this. What I'm wearing, you see, it's not Christmas colors. Christmas colors are red and black and white and green. I know. But the reason I'm wearing this is because green was her favorite color. This is actually her funeral booklet program. We laid her to rest on December 16th, so just about a week ago. This is the funeral booklet. You can see she's wearing green again. I think this thing is glossy, and I should go ahead and apologize. I'm using a StreamYard, which I have never used before on my own. So I'm just hoping this is even recording to start with. That's a good reason why I did not even dare do anything live. I hope this isn't live. But let me go ahead and just say a thing or two. I can't speak to her directly. I can't call her. But there are, I think, a bunch of things I'd like to say. I don't have them in any order. Of course, I'm speaking without a script. But I decided to just do this before I chicken out and decide not to do it at all. She was sick. She passed away after a very tough battle with uterine cancer. And in that time, and since then, I have had the chance to reflect on a lot of things. And there's so much on my mind, I wonder whether I can get it all out. But I'll start with the whole idea of when she was sick. Like I mentioned in the Thanksgiving message, we prayed and prayed and prayed. And what I have learned with the outcome is that when we pray, we say, okay, God, answer our prayers. The tendency is to want him to answer or expect him to answer the way we would like him to answer. So when we don't get the answer that we want, we say he did not listen, he did not hear us, he did not answer our prayers. We hardly ever stop to consider the fact that the answer to our prayer can be no. It can be no. You ask somebody for something, they could say yes and do it. They could say maybe and maybe think about it. I'll think about it and do it later. Or they may say no. The answer to a request that you make of somebody, human being or not, maybe no. We hardly factor that in. And that is why when we get no for an answer, because in this case, we asked God to just spare her life, and his answer to that question was no. And before we think about how that is unfair and everything, as I said, I've been reflecting. I thought about what God's answer to Jesus himself was at a particular time. You remember, if you're Christian, you've read even if you're not Christian, if you've read the Bible, you see the record of what happened in the Garden of Gethsemane with Jesus himself. Jesus, who was fully man, but fully God as well. He came to this world, which is what we're celebrating on Christmas. He came into this world with the purpose of dying. It's a little different for us. We come into this world and we know that we will eventually die, but our purpose is not to die. But for Jesus, he came into this world with a fixed purpose and goal: to die. He was born to die. That was his purpose. Yet, when the time came when he faced death and was sitting in that Garden of Gethsemane, he had called Peter, James, and John to go along and pray with him. He was going through torture, mental turmoil. The human part of him was feeling the pain, was feeling the weight. So we are told he bowed his face to the earth and prayed to God and asked specifically, let this cup pass from me. He saw the suffering coming, and the man side of him kicked in. He knew the pain of a cross, crucifixion, the whipping and the flogging that awaited him. And he said to his father, if it be thy will, let this cup pass from me. But unlike us, he was quick to say, or he was ready to say, thy will be done. Nevertheless, thy will be done. And that is something we have a hard time adding to our prayers, that thy will be done thing, because we don't really want his will to be done. We have our own will that we would prefer. I'll be honest. I didn't want this dear friend of mine to pass on. I wanted her to stay here for her, for myself, selfishly, obviously, for all the ton of other friends she had, for all the groups that she belonged to, that she was the major fundraiser, founder of, all of those things. And above all, for her husband of 40 years, for her precious children that she had not yet seen get married or have children, for her mother who turned 80 this year. Just in December, December 14th, she turned 80, who had lost a son already earlier on this year and now was losing her daughter. So she's lost her first two children. I mean, when he's praying for God to spare her life and heal her, these are very good reasons why he should. And so when he goes around, when he turns around and doesn't, we're like, why? Why would you do a thing like that? And we question God. And we forget to remember that his ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. And we cannot get him because our minds are finite. We cannot understand the way he works. No more than a 2-year-old can understand you if you tell him not to do this because of carbon monoxide. What does he know carbon monoxide is? Or even the child, you say, don't put your hand on this red thing here. It's hot, it's fire, it's going to burn you. He doesn't get it. If you don't watch him, he will come back tomorrow and put his hand on that fire again because it's red hot and looks interesting. So a kid at that age, at age 2, is not capable even of understanding what you're saying about the fire and carbon monoxide. Same way we are not able to understand all of God's ways. That's why we have faith. That's why we trust. That's why we believe. And that is why we look at Jesus's case there. He said, let this cup pass from me. So he is human, and God understands that we are human, and we too are perplexed. In fact, this same Jesus, I mean, if he did not understand that we feel pain, he would not have wept at Lazarus's grave, even though he knew he was going to raise him up from the dead. The difference, though, is that God has a vision. He's omniscient that we just don't have. So we are used to the here and now and what we see and the way we reason out things. It's hard for us to accept the passing of somebody that close to us. And I'm thinking my heart is going out to Marie's family this morning. The first time they're not going to have their mom and wife with them to wish her a happy birthday. It's hard now to be talking about Hark the Herald Angels saying joy to the world and all of that stuff. But then, if we take our time as Christians, she was a very fervent Catholic Christian. If we take our time as Christians and think about the whole plan that there is to it, even if we don't jump up and start dancing for joy, at least we can have hope in the whole complete plan. Because the reason Jesus came to die was that he would give us hope for life after death. That's what helps us to be able to, when you're watching your loved one being lowered into the ground. I was standing there a week ago now, that Saturday 16th, and watching those guys just lower that casket. And I was looking, and you're distraught and the tears are coming down your eyes. The one thing that keeps you from losing your mind completely is that thought. It's that thought of the resurrection morning. And you keep on saying, till we meet again, till we meet to part no more, till we meet on when the trumpet sounds, that kind of a thing. And I know people have questioned the Christian faith and everything. And they say, what if you believe all of this stuff and you find out in the end that it's not even real or true? And I'm like, what would I have lost? At least I am able to, I weep, but I wipe my eyes and the tears off and say, I will get to see her again. I will get to see my brother again. I'll get to see my mother and my father again down the road. Because that is even what happened with Jesus' ascension. Those are his closest disciples were standing there and watching him go. One hardly thinks about it the same way you think about death, because he had risen from the grave, risen from the dead. And the fact that he was ascending, you're like, oh, that's a great thing. On Ascension Day, we celebrate. But stop a minute and think about how those disciples must have felt. They had worked with this man for 3 years of their lives, abandoned their fishing careers and everything. Matthew, the tax collector, left his tax collecting and joined that group of people. They had worked intimately with this man for 3 years. He was part of them, and now he was leaving. And that is still separation. The fact that it was not because of death, because he had died and risen again, the fact that it was not because of death that he was leaving doesn't change the fact that the next day after he had gone, I'm sure they woke up and they missed him. Things would happen when they're going through problems, and they would surely go like I am going, if only Jesus were here. If only he were here. The same way I'm going, where if Mary had been here, I'd have been able to call her this morning. So many things have happened when I instinctively reach for my phone to call her, to even talk to her about how her funeral went. You feel like saying, Bo, did you see this? Did you see that? Did you like this? Did you like that? And you're going, how would she have felt? But the thing is, you cannot talk to her directly now because there is that separation. But then there is the hope down the line that she will rise again. That's why, for me, the message of Christmas is totally incomplete if you don't add the cross to it. So for me, it's a combination of the cradle on one hand and the cross. The two go together, because if there were just the cradle and no cross, there'd be no point. There had to be that cross after the cradle for us to have the hope that we need to have. That helps us cope far better with our grief, where you can stand and afford to smile through your tears and say it's going to get better down the road. So it was pretty much that kind of message. It was supposed to be just a brief little thing that I was going to come out here to say, because my heart was full. I cannot call her. I don't want to say scared, but reluctant to even call her mother, her husband, her children, or even other people who are friends as well of hers. This morning, it just feels funny, it feels strange. That is why I just took this. What I'm wearing is what we call ashwabi. It was what was worn at her wake. Members of her family had this. I belonged to a different group that she was a member of, so that day I didn't get to wear this. I wore what the group was wearing. The Christ Transglobal Alliance ladies were wearing. I wore that. So today I chose to wear this in memory of her. I have the pin right here, the pin in remembrance of her as well. And I found some piece of cloth to just tie my head, because this, you wouldn't want to see what's under this scarf. But it was something that I felt the need to do. This is not going to be it. This is not just all I'm going to do, I plan on doing to remember her. By God's grace, this coming year, I hope and plan to do a recording that would involve her fellow star members, her members from at least representatives of those groups she belonged to, so we can come and remember her, because we owe her that, to keep her legacy going. So people who are not blessed to know her, which the number of people who did know her, my goodness, you should have seen that funeral, you should have seen that week. There was a group, the Lafaba group, marching in with this Ashwabi thing. They played a song once, it ended. They started the song over, it ended, and still the crowd of people marching in was not done marching in. In the end, because of time constraints, there were so many groups wishing to speak, they had to just stop and have the person who was going to do the speaking speak, with half the members of his group still outside trying to march back in. That is how much of a crowd puller that event was. Which reminds me, before I stop this thing, to that those of us who miss her, who knew her intimately, who knew her well, we would do well to learn from the wonderful life she lived. If she had not lived the kind of life that she lived, the involved, caring, kind, thoughtful, community-oriented kind of life that she lived, we wouldn't have had that crowd out there so distraught. In fact, had it not been that this is Christmas time and a good number of people had traveled to other places for other events, Cameroon especially, I don't know, already we barely fit in that hall, huge hall that it was. We were barely able to fit in it. There was an overflow crowd outside. If everybody who planned and wanted to attend this event had actually showed up, it would have been a disaster. I can say that because of space. Why? Why was that the case? Because of the kind of person that she was. It's still hard for me to say was instead of is. Somebody who cared, somebody who would pick up their phone and call, somebody who cared to find out what was going on with you, happy or sad, somebody who was so involved in the community. She founded so many groups to help so many different categories of people. And once she joined this group, she was never the backbencher kind who would just sit there and you don't hear from them ever. No, she was there at the forefront, even when she did not have a position of leadership. In the group that I was in, she was treasurer, so she was not the person always talking or anything, but she would keep those books. You could trust her on the book. Integrity, she had it. And then just a sweet-mannered person. Quintessential Mami Nyanga. I tried to find some bracelets. It was too late for me to go to try to get any matching bangles like she was used to wearing. So I found what I had, and I'm wearing these in honor of her. I know that she fought that battle to the very end. I know that she's not the kind of person that I don't know those details, but I don't believe she's the kind of person who actually wrote down, because some people plan that. They write down word for word what they want done for their funeral. Sing this song, have this father do this, have this person do so and so thing. I doubt that she did, because of how much she bought into the idea of staying on and living on for the sake of her husband and her kids and her mother and all her siblings and those who love her. So I doubt that she had done that, but she lived her life in a way where it wasn't hard to figure out what she would have liked. Even we were planning as her sisters, her sorors in the group, we would say, okay, what should we do? We could easily say, no, let's not do that. Marie would not have liked that. Let's do this one. She would have liked that. So you see somebody who lived her life with purpose, who lived her life with very clear values, very clear principles. That is something that is just amazing to note, which some of us would do well to emulate. She was not a wavering, neither here nor there person, where sitting on the fence kind of person, wishy-washy kind of person. Look, you bring a topic up, you know that if you go tell her this thing, this is how she will react to it. So I was looking at her from the way she was dressed there in that casket. I was saying, I know my beau would be happy with this. The music that was played, I know she'd be happy with this. So she has a rich legacy she has left us. And we would do well to try to follow it, which is why I'm saying my plan, as God wills, is that sometime in January, I had already even contacted DJ Skipper, but he wasn't going to be here. He's in Cameroon right now. So I said, when he gets back, and we can get ourselves together at some point and actually have a real show, not this thing I'm blabbing about here, impromptu, just got up in the morning and decided to do this. In fact, made sure that everybody stayed in their bedrooms and not walking past here as I'm doing this, because I just said, give me a few minutes, which is why I have to get off this thing pretty soon. Give me a few minutes. I just want to speak. I need to get this off my chest. It's amazing. They say there are stages of grief. I have forgotten which stage comes before which one, because it seems like I have all the stages on any given day. I go from being optimistic and hopeful and saying, it's okay, this is my beau, she should rest, she deserves to rest, no more pain, no more this. The next minute, I'm like, but why? We're talking about an omniscient and omnipotent God who's capable of doing anything. Why didn't he choose to heal her now? Then I go to the next time you're sad. Next thing, for no reason, you hear a song, something happens, the tears come rolling down. So one is just on a roller coaster on any given day. And then I remember the whole idea, okay, what would she expect from me? What would she want? For me to sit down, curl up into a fetal position and stop living, stop acting my roles? No, definitely not. She wouldn't have wanted that. She didn't support all the things I was doing or have been doing so fervently for me to sit down now, buckle up, or I don't know what it is, buckle down, spiral away and sit down there and just stop. We just need to instead forge ahead with all the things that she was doing. Or I'm sure all her groups will eventually get to that point. Her children too, to go ahead and live a life that would make her proud, where she would sit there and say, my time was not wasted on this earth. I impacted people, and look at my legacy continuing. So how about wrap this up? I don't even know whether what I have rambled about makes sense. This is more for me even. I really, I don't want to say I really couldn't be bothered if no one listened. I don't even know if I will eventually post this thing. I think I'm just recording it. I hope it is not live. I'm just recording it because I needed to come and say this even for my own self. And I'm thinking there may be somebody there too who is sorrowing and who needs to hear a message of hope. When God sends you something, like they say, something that is not necessarily pleasant, we know nothing happens to us that he does not allow or permit to happen. It may not be he actually doing it, but he lets it happen, because if he did not want it to happen, he has the power to make it not happen. So when it does, and in a case like this, then what happens is we ask him for the strength to bear it. So I'm thinking about my friends, as Theodore Quenti, who has lost his sister. There are people whose loved ones are in the mortuary as we speak. Some other lady who passed away in DC there just a year after her older sister had passed on last year. There are so many tales of woe out there. So it for many people this Christmas, as I was saying, joy, joy, joy. I mean, it's not really working. My prayer then for them, you remember, it says God is close to the brokenhearted. He's able to soothe that pain. He can't really take it away. It's not normal for you to get up and just be jumping up and down and saying fa la 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 as if nothing happened. He understands your sorrow. He understands your pain. It is legitimate for you to feel sorrowful and to feel the pain. The thing is, we're saying, let us not let it bog us down. Let it not weigh us down to the point that we are rendered inactive and unable to function and complete our own race. If God did not think Mary had completed what he put her on this earth to accomplish, he wouldn't have called her. The idea, if he has called her, has to be because what she did, what she ended up doing, even in the 57 years that she had on this earth, is complete. Because we have different ideas. Yes, she had her dreams about what else she would have liked to do afterwards, but as we said, God's plan for us is not necessarily what we have in mind for our own selves. And we're going to have to learn to trust and rely on him and believe he is a good God, and that he would not do anything that is a deliberate thing to just hurt us for the fun of it. Hurt us and then sit there and laugh, ha ha ha, look at how you're struggling. No. He understands that idea of sacrifice himself, because he sent his only son. Maybe we have multiple children. So one passes away, you say, I have others. He had one only begotten son. He sacrificed that son, sent him to earth here. He was here for 30 years, began his ministry, died at 33. Of course, I believe God missed his son while his son was out here on earth. So he himself also knows the pain of separation. He sent his son out here. He definitely was not sitting there having the fun of his life, watching his son being beaten, slapped, disrespected, doubted, or being lifted up on the cross in that pain and agony. He's crying out to you, my God, why have you forsaken me? How? So God understands our pain, having gone through pain his own self, having experienced pain his own self. To talk much less of Jesus, who actually came and dwelt amongst us. That's what the Christmas message is. Emmanuel, God with us. So as John says, the word became flesh, and dwelt amongst us. So the pain we feel, he feels it too. The ache we have in our heart and souls, he feels it too. So he understands. So it's to him we go and we cry out when we are overwhelmed, when the sadness is weighing down on us. We say, Lord, help us. Help us cope. Help us to be able to pick up the pieces and the bits and go forward and live out our own purpose completely. Mary has done her part and she's gone to be with him. We are still here. Every morning you wake up, if you're still here, obviously your purpose is not done. So I'm sitting here trying to fulfill mine, including this, what I'm doing right here somehow. Then I need to go do the cooking thing for Christmas, then fulfill all my other little roles that I'm here to fulfill, and ask God to show me what else I need to be doing that I may not have done yet, so that I end up fulfilling the reason for which he put me on this planet. And so I'll end up with this Christmas message, thanking God for the gift of his son. Because had he not come, then we'll just be going around in circles with no hope. So he came. What does that chorus say? He came down that we may have life. So even when we face death and when we're surrounded by the sorrow that comes from death, we have our hope. We have our hope. So we mourn, not like those who have no hope, like the Bible says. We mourn with that expectation that we will see our loved ones again. That's why the song says, we shall rise. Hallelujah, we shall rise. Amen. On that resurrection morning. So I'm going to end up just saying, this is Egbembiwan Monjibo, closing this little thing out and wishing you a merry, merry, hope-filled Christmas. See you in a bit. I probably will come back with a New Year's thing to thank you all for a wonderful year. But I hope this touches somebody. I hope it means something to somebody. That's all I can hope and pray for. So, Merry Christmas.